everyone, welcome to my channel, The Freelance Life. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome. And for those of you returning, welcome back. I'm Jen, and I'm a freelance graphic designer, illustrator, and educator based out of the Midwest, and I run Bella and Sophia Creative Studio. On this channel, you will find in-depth creative tutorials relating to things like design, creative business, and illustration. I also share a behind-the-scenes view of the work that I do as a creative freelancer and educator. For the last couple of years, I've really been enjoying creating a top 10 trend forecast for graphic design and surface pattern design. I find trends really can help guide personal design work as well as keep us freelancers on top of the design aesthetic and movements in the creative industry. So today, I'm going to be sharing my top 10 trends of 2022 for surface pattern design. So let's get started. The first trend I want to highlight is this idea of the celestial planetary. It draws on celestial magic and spirituality, from stars and planetary constellations to mystical signs and symbolism. Connecting with spirituality and exploring planetary influences on our spiritual well-being is really kind of taking center stage in this. The trend is being translated through stylized visuals and iconography pulled from things like astrology and astronomy, and it's a really fun new take on the very common moon and stars themes that we often see in surface pattern design. The next trend I want to highlight is funky geometrics. So we're moving away from really clean graphic lines in geometry kind of stylized patterns. And geometric patterns are taking more of a loose handmade feel to them. This spring and summer, we're seeing these geometric trends take kind of a softer handmade feel, combined with this like kind of hastily sketched linear doodles and boldly brushed paint marks and loose inky checks. And all of this is combined to kind of create this really fun and vibrant, more artistically inclined geometric style within these patterns. The next trend I want to highlight is the Great Gatsby Deco movement. So I think it's really interesting to see us kind of throwing it back to the roaring 20s in the 2020s. So Art Deco styled florals and patterns are taking on a new twist within this aesthetic. Touches of gold and contrasting outlines are emphasized within this really highly decorative trend. With rounded profiles and shapes, mixed tiles, playful scales, and bold pops of mixed florals and metallics, I'm seeing the Art Deco trend through small details and in elegant forms. The next trend I want to highlight is the Hypnotic Exotic. I know we're still in the middle of this pandemic. I know a few years ago we would have hoped by now we would be on the other side of it, but Omicron has reared its ugly head and we still don't know what's going to happen and when this is all going to be over. And because of that, I'm seeing a lot of designers and creatives in general, artists, kind of utilizing their art as a form of escapism. And I feel like this trend kind of plays a bit into that. So flowers are playing an essential role in this theme. And in the past, where flower prints were kind of small and graceful over the last couple of years, they're now encasing materials in really large and graphic floral elements and designs. They can appear as painted effects, stamped images, or appliques. Anything is really possible. And we're even seeing this imagery of city landscapes and exotic locations. And I feel like this is a really interesting and refreshing approach in terms of coping with, what we have dealt with over the last few years, especially after these really long periods of travel restrictions for most people. Because many of us couldn't travel, we're traveling through our artwork and through our design work, and we're exploring inspirations and concepts, exotic locations from far away, right in the comfort of our home. The next trend I want to highlight is psychedelic. So it looks like the funky, twisted, distorted aesthetics of the psychedelic 1960s is basically making a comeback. It probably was sparked by the ever-growing commentary on things like microdosing and psilocybin's effect on mental health, or the fact that this overall style has always kind of been a marker of the counterculture, but I'm definitely seeing these visuals popping up in all kinds of design usage. From graphic design and things like posters, to Instagram, to funky filters and digital media, this overall style kind of incorporates mind-bending colors and dripping organic shapes, and I see it gaining an edge. And even though it's very popular in the traditional kind of graphic design realm, you're seeing this kind of infiltrate within the fashion world as well. And personally, I think it definitely highlights how trends come in and out and are often in response to the world around us. And after the last 2 years, it really does make sense. So the next trend that I want to highlight is kind of like this 90s Y2K love. So as a 90s and early 2000s teen, seeing these trends emerge as my own teenager taps into the style is really fun and a little bit surreal. This whole idea of the 90s MTV nostalgia is definitely making a really huge impact on design. From green screen and meme aesthetics to a really fun throwback look with brands like Nickelodeon licensing out some of my favorite imagery from cartoons like the Rugrats. We're seeing a 90s internet vibe all around. I'm seeing this a lot in things like TikTok filters and lo-fi DIY and communication styles, but I also see it a lot present in fashion overall with graphic tees and a general kind of like grunge inspired aesthetic with some looks. This specific period around the late 90s and early 2000s is characterized by kind of like crude interfaces, low-tech CGI, bubblegum pinks and blues and iridescent colors that are reminiscent of the back of CDs, which very much reminds me of my Hit Me Baby One More Time single. And in many ways, it also touches a bit on cyberpunk, but a much more poppier, bright, and nostalgic take on it that I see in Harajuku style versus kind of like the traditional dark neon and sleek take on it that you will often think of. So it's interesting to see how this can apply in terms of colors and textures and overall design work, especially with like the iridescent colors within surface pattern design work. The next trend I want to highlight is Artscape. So this trend features the kind of pattern styles that people who are not afraid of experimenting will go after. The trend approach is very unorthodox and it gravitates towards more of an unconventional and underground feel. It features basically art as prints. Whether they're nebulous colors, large print recreations, or literal sketches on fabric, Artscape is really eye-catching and it's bound to garner attention. The next trend I want to highlight is geometric illusions. This is the second time the concept of geometrics is showing up within this forecast, but I'm seeing people really take interesting approaches to designing geometrics. So within geometric illusions, just like the design world is seeing a throwback to the 1960s psychedelic inspired kind of aesthetics, the pattern world is also giving body to the groovy era. So this time it involves geometric prints in funky, mind-boggling, illusionary styles, tiny polygons or quadrilaterals, and really busy, dense arrangements. And we're gonna see a lot of this. We're also seeing these kinds of prints on the runway, Saint Laurent and Versace, but brands like Zara and Mango are continuing to release the styles for us regular people. The next trend I want to highlight is the Ukiyo-e design aesthetic. So more and more designers have been looking to kind of like reimagine this whole flat vector artwork that we're seeing a lot in digital design as well as surface pattern design standards. And a great take on this is found in a lot of inspiration from the past. So in 2022, we're seeing designers take their inspiration from historical design and art pioneers and movements, specifically the Ukiyo-e artists of Japan's Edo period. I absolutely love this style, and I personally had the opportunity to see some of this artwork in person at an art exhibit at the Art Institute Chicago. The exhibit was Painting the Floating World Ukiyo-e Masterpieces from the Weston Collection. There was a series of paintings which were one-of-a-kind works commissioned by the same artists who were well known for their woodblock prints. These prints offered an exclusive view of the urban amusements and life of early modern Japan, and we're seeing this now being taken into this modern approach to vector design styles, kind of creating these lifestyle visual pieces for things like fabrics and surface prints and things like that. And it's a really fun and unique take, and it's a throwback to the past, to a beautiful movement, and I'm seeing some really great creatives really doing a good job of paying homage to the past while moving forward with a new take. And the final trend that I want to highlight for this 2022 trend recap is maximalism. So for the past few years, the world of design has been immersed in the trend of minimalism. It has been a really popular approach to clothing, furniture, art, surface pattern design, and in general as a lifestyle. Minimalism was a way of keeping things simple with the bare essentials, basic shapes, and monochromatic palettes. However, as minimalism makes its way out, maximalism is really beginning to take its place. So with this trend, designers are being bold with color. There's no fear of vibrant, bold, saturated colors. Visuals and designs are taking up as much space as possible, and lots of texture that creates a lot of depth. And essentially, patterns are created to be loud and visually eclectic within this design trend. Your motif or design theme, like color, will often take center stage within this trend, and it'll be a key focus that the additional elements support to create a bit of harmony within the creative chaos. So this is a fun trend that's all about being big and bold and filling up space. Okay, so that is it for the surface pattern design trends of 2022. I hope you found the rundown of these top 10 surface pattern design trends for 2022 helpful. If there's a trend that you think should also be mentioned, leave it in the comments below. Let me know why you like it and how you think it will be used this year in surface pattern design work. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and if you're not already, make sure you subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on my latest tutorials, course launches, and of course vlogs. If you're looking for other ways to connect with me, you can do so on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all at the handle at BellaSophiaCreative. And if you want to visit me online, you can do so at www.bellasophiacreative.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!